Hey guys, Ken Gee here, founder at KRI. I am super excited to spend a minute here talking with a great friend of mine and now one of our team members, Nick Trombley. I met him about 3 or 4 years ago, and he is just one stand-up guy. And the reason I'm excited about talking to him today is you always hear me talk about what it means to push through, to try to figure out how to do things that you don't think you can do, right? What does it mean to overcome those barriers? Well, I'm proud to tell you that Nick had a goal, and that goal was to run a marathon in under 4 hours before he turned 30. And I'm proud to tell you that he did, in fact, do that. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, how he did it, how the heck he overcame what has got to be a lot of barriers. So, Nick, congratulations. I got to start off with my first question for you. Why on earth would you want to do something like this and torture yourself?
I appreciate the introduction, Ken. It's been great. Our relationship over the last couple of years has been amazing. I'm incredibly honored to know you as well. Basically, I've been very into fitness for a very long time. So I'm always looking for the next thing to push myself in, the next, workout that I can do better, faster, stronger. So I've always been like that, where I really like to push the limits of what my body can do. I will tell you though, running was never on my radar. Hated running. I would do anything but. I would lift. I would, do all these other crazy workouts, obstacle courses, things like that. But when it came to running, never wanted to do it. And recently, maybe over the last 2-3 years, I kind of started getting into it. I had a couple friends that were running. My aunt used to run and do marathons and things like that. So I started picking it up and saying, well, let me see what all the hype's about. If I can get into it, maybe I'll like it. So I gave myself some time and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of am starting to like it a little bit. So actually the goal before I turned 30, which is actually today, by the way, the goal was to do a half a marathon this year, 2024. So that was my original goal. I had already been, my fitness level was decent. I could run okay, but that goal was 13.1 miles was the goal. So anyway, I started running more and more and realizing that 13 miles sounds like a lot, but it really wasn't that bad. And I went out one day for a run and I felt really good at about 10 miles and I just kept going. So I did the 13.1 just on my own. And I was like, well, that wasn't that bad. I'm like, I'm going to have to do a marathon now. I just had the realization. I'm like, dang it. Like I didn't want to do it. But I was like, that wasn't that bad. I'm gonna have to do it.
You set your target.
So
you blew right.
Yep. It was way too low. So exactly.
So then you moved the target. So you doubled your target.
I doubled down. Yeah. I said, hey, I could do 13. I should be able to muscle my way through 26.
So give me an idea. How long did you have to train to get to this level?
Yeah. So I started earlier, kind of late last year, early this year, taking it a little bit more seriously. I gave myself a goal. I'd run, 2 to 3 times a week was my average. And then I would just increase the miles and do some different workouts, speed work and stuff like that, all on top of my normal cadence for going to the gym. So I was doing both. And for, I think, April timeframe, when I did the half marathon, 13 miles. And that's when I made the decision. I was like, wow, that wasn't that bad. So I didn't train a whole lot of like access training. Like it wasn't a ton to get to the 13. And then I did it and it was fine. I had a couple like 10-mile runs I thought I was going to die on. I was also training in Miami area, so it was super hot for me. But I got there relatively easy for the 13. So the training for that wasn't that bad. It was deciding to do the marathon and then committing to that. That's where I did a full 20-week training block, very detailed. Actually, I pulled some of the stats for the marathon workout itself. And the reason I decided to take the marathon more seriously than I did the the half marathon, was because I know myself, and I'm the type of person that I will commit to something. Sometimes maybe in the fitness side, I won't fully train, but I know I just am used to pushing my body past its limits. So I figured, okay, I've got two options. I can either really train for this thing and make it so it doesn't suck that bad, or I can just go out and do it and suffer through it. It'll probably be the worst experience of my life, and I'll be hurting. Everything will hurt. And then at least I did it. Mm-hmm. So I knew those were my two options. And for me, I knew myself, and I'm like, I'm going to push myself, and I'm going to go out. I'm going to try to run too hard. I'm going to kill myself if I don't train for it. So I decided to do a 20-week program, and I downloaded this app, paid for this app. It was great. Set up a whole training thing with a schedule, had all the workouts, and I executed on it. That was my biggest, the greatest thing I did there was execute on that 20 weeks, every single workout, hitting them, doing alternatives if I got hurt, and just really buckling down to do it. That's what helped me get, to where I wanted to be ultimately as far as that marathon.
Did you ever think about giving up?
Yeah, a lot. I pulled
How
some
did
of
you
this.
push through that? So here's the real reason you're here, Nick. How did you push through that? Because people, we talk to people, you talk to our clients and our investors, and they think all the time, man, there's no way I could buy an apartment building. Like, you're nuts, Ken. Like, stop the madness. Like, there's no way. I'm broke. I don't have any money. They give up. Why did you, what did you do? How did you push through that? Because this is really important for people, because they need to figure out how to push through that doubt. So tell me how you did it.
Yep. So one of the big things was committing fully to it. I committed to it. Like I signed up for the race. I put a, financial commitment behind it, although it wasn't humongous, but it was still, I committed. I took the steps to commit myself to it. That helped a lot, just going all in.
Did you tell everybody else that you were going to do this thing?
I told people I was doing it, told people the general time frame. I had to tell other people in order to hold me accountable.
Okay, because you embarrassment of failure.
Yep. Exactly. There's no way I would have told everybody and then not done it. There's no way. I would have crawled through the marathon.
You had to put outside pressure on yourself on purpose.
I had to. Yep. Yeah. So I told my parents, I told my family, my aunt that used to run a lot. I told all my friends, especially the friends and mentors that I look up to that also do runs and do different things like that. I told them, hey, I'm going to do a marathon December, actually was originally the plan, ended up being in November. But I told everyone, I said, I'm going to do a marathon by December. And then I'm going to do a marathon before my birthday in December.
How many people doubted you? How many people tried to talk you out of it?
Well, that's probably the good thing. I guess my sphere or my influential circle, or the people that I've done a really good job over the last couple of years kind of weeding out people that maybe don't make sense to be around. There's a, you can love people from a distance. And that's kind of what I've done for some people that I know might put some of that doubt in. So I really do try to keep my group with people that are like, yeah, you can do it, and I am the type of person ever since growing up. And, when I set my mind to something, especially when it's like a physical activity or a sport or something like that, I do it, and I do it pretty well most of the time. So most of the people that I told, a lot of them were like, a couple of them were like, you're crazy. That's nuts. Why would you want to run 26 miles? You're wild. I definitely had a couple people like that, but it was almost like encouraging, because it was like, all right, they think I'm nuts, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then the other half of people were like, I bet you'll probably do better than you think. Like you're going to do great, crush it. So I had a really good kind of sphere of people that I embody myself around.
You did. And that was probably even tougher peer pressure, because they expected you to do it. They expect you to succeed. They weren't like, oh yeah, okay, good luck, Nick. But they would be cool if you failed. These people kind of expect you. It's interesting what you just said. And a lot of people, this is a very hard thing for people to do. And we always talk about it. Don't surround yourself with negative people. Surround yourself with people who are going to help support you, who are going to help, that want to be successful, that are willing to go to that next level and have that expectation. That's interesting that you've actually set your life up that way. This is before the race. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's go to race day. I mean, I'm thinking about race day, man. I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. Like, I'm nervous. What if I fail? Tell me what went on race day before you started. What were you thinking?
Yeah, there was a lot. One thing I want to just brush up on really quick before race day is just the amount of work that went into getting to race day was substantial. So I pulled some of the stats. I wear a Garmin watch, and it tracks everything. So every single run I have tracked, everything that I've done over the last year. So from January 2024, January 1st, 2024 to when I did the marathon in mid-November, I had logged over 590 miles on my feet.
Wow.
509. I actually this morning did a little 3-mile run just to kind of shake it out and get one in. But I am just over 600 miles for the year that I've logged on my feet. Just to put it into perspective, that's like, it's like 100 hours, I think it said, of running. Like, that's how much time I've spent running. Also, I listen to podcasts too and stuff like that, so I make it a productive time. But it's a lot of time. The 20-week block of training that I went all in on consisted about 360 of those miles. Wow. So there's a lot. That was most of that training was within that 20 weeks leading up to the race. So there was a lot of obstacles. There was a lot of times that I thought I was going to fail. I bought a new pair of my shoe. I was running through shoes literally, and they were falling off my feet, and I'd have to buy a new pair and start over. And that came with its own difficulties, learning what my body can adapt with. So leading up to the race day itself.
Let me back up. Was there any one thing that you thought, this one's going to be it? This is it. This is going to stop me. But somehow, wherever did anything rise to that level?
Yeah, I think it was week 16, 17, 18 time frame. I had grabbed a new pair of shoes, but I changed it up a little bit. I kind of got talked into it by someone at the running store for something that was more for my long runs. But my long runs were increasing, and they were getting a lot, like I was starting to really tack on the miles for the week. So my body was going through all these changes. So I tried a different pair of shoes, and that pair of shoes gave me some of the worst shin splints I've ever experienced in my life. I could hardly even walk. And that happened like within a week of having them. And when you're talking 20 weeks, it seems like a long time, but when you're in that back half, it's like I have no room for error. Like, I need to make sure I'm hitting all these runs. I know if I put in the work in this 20 week, then that day, that day comes, it'll be easier. It'll help me out. I'll be okay. So that really got me down, was having a really, really bad shin splint. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't walk. I can hardly walk. I can't run.
What'd you do?
So great
this
question.
Is important, man. This is what people,
it is.
Outside of a marathon, this stuff really goes on. Yep. They're trying to do incredible things. So I need to know how you push through this.
Yep. So I adapted and I overcame. What I did, I was like, I can't run. I can't put a lot of weight on my right foot. I need to figure out why that is. So I went back to the drawing board, realized it was probably my shoes, talked to an expert about my shoes. They were like, you need to go back immediately to the other ones. Get a new pair of those, you'll be fine. And then for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, instead of running, I substituted it for biking. So I just did almost an equivalent amount of biking as running. If my run was 10 or 15 miles, but that would take me an hour to 2 hours, then I would do at least an hour, 2 hours, that same amount of time on a bike. So it was low impact. It gave my body a chance to heal, but also kept my cardio up and kept me building and growing. So once I figured that out, that's when I was like, okay, I'm fine. I'll just do this. And instead of pushing myself and hurting myself more, I'm going to give myself a little bit more time. I'll probably still be okay. And I just had those thoughts with myself, like, I need to just make sure that I get it healed and get back to it and try to time it perfectly. You know, it never happens perfectly, but that's what I did. So I took the load off of my legs, did the work on the bike, and got myself to a point where it felt good. Did a couple trial runs, and then luckily the shoes that I went back to, even a new pair, that was all I needed to do. So I got right back into it and kept hammering that pavement.
Yeah, what's interesting here is we talk a lot about these barriers not being barriers, right? This could have been a barrier for you. You said, I got shin splints.
Absolutely.
I'm done, especially week 17. I mean, the marathon's right around the corner, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
And you are having this injury at that time. That was a very bad time. But what I'm hearing you tell me is that you didn't treat it as a barrier. We talk about treating these things as problems. You just got to figure out the solution. You went and figured it out.
Yep.
That's super impressive. All right, let's get race day. Let's talk about race. Yeah. Tell me, you're going to get ready to run. Tell me, were you nervous?
Yes. Yeah. So very nervous. My wife and one of my coworkers, Jake, actually got sick it was just a cold, but a couple of days before I was leaving, and I knew I was traveling. I was flying in a plane. I'm like, I'm already going to be dealing with that. It's November up north. It's cold season. Luckily I'm down south. Knock on wood, but in Florida, I never got a cold for some reason. I don't know why. But my wife had a cold. Jake had a cold. I basically quarantined myself from everyone. I was like, I can't, I'm like, I'm sorry. I've come way too far and done way too much stuff. I mean, we're talking hundreds of hours, 100 plus hours just running, you know, and I'm like, I can't chance it at this late in the game coming off of that kind of injury. So I was super nervous. I was like, I can't get sick, but I also can't spend too much time thinking about it, because I'm a really big believer that whatever you pay attention to and put your focus on, you get or you create. Yeah. So if I thought I was going to get sick or going to get hurt, if I kept dwelling on that, I feel like I definitely would have. Yeah. So I tried to just put it out, but also take those precautions. And then getting to the race was a whole nother thing. You know, I woke up a couple hours early, I think 3:50, 4 a.m. I wanted to make sure that I could eat my food, the food that I needed and wanted to eat leading up to the race. I was nervous, so it was harder for me to eat. Just right, it was a bagel, you know, it was a bagel with peanut butter toasted. Like, it should go down pretty easy. It took me forever to eat it. You know, I was starting to get kind of nervous. And I'm like, I was like, why am I nervous? You know, I've trained so much for this. I should be fine. But you always get those nerves. It's something new. You've never done it before. And then getting actually to the race, seeing everybody there. You know, I think there was just under 3,000 people that ran this one. It's not one of the enormous ones, but the city's not very big either. So there was a good amount of people around. It was busy. So those environments kind of, you know, put you on edge anyway. Just so many people, so many things going on, this and that. I was really trying to stay focused on, I know I need to fuel. I need to fuel early. I need to make sure up until a certain point in time, I need to have, you know, eaten and drank these things. I need to get a warm up in. It's colder than I'm used to, but I need to do something to kind of warm myself up. So I just kept going through my routine. I have my wife right there who's definitely my biggest, you know, cheerleader for sure. But she was right there. We had everything kind of ready to go. She took the things that I didn't need. She was, you know, a huge support. So it was good to have that. And then I basically got in line and
so
we
now
kicked
the race
off.
starts. Race starts.
The race started.
Tell me about. So when did you start to feel like, man, this is hard. This is getting hard, right? I feel like you probably ran the half marathon part of it.
Yep.
kind of easily. I don't know. That's ridiculous for me to say because I've never done that. But
Yeah.
is that what happened to you? When did it get tough?
Yeah. Yeah. So the race started like any race. I've done some before, so I kind of was accustomed to how they start. If you're brand new to races, obviously it can be daunting because it's like you don't just start and run. Like I go out for a run and I just start. Like you've got to do this slinky effect for a little bit. There's a lot of people around you. You got to try to get around people. You got to try not to start off too fast. You got to kind of tone it down. There's adrenaline pumping. You're just like, you're feeling good. So at the beginning, I felt great. I felt really good, but I was very focused on, I need to stay around, like a 9-minute mile. I can't let myself go and just start ripping. Like I need to just peel it back. So I did a good job at that. 13 miles came. Like it was pretty easy. Actually saw my wife at the 13-mile marker, stopped real quick, I had a long sleeve shirt on. I gave her that, grabbed a couple more gels to eat the rest of the way, my sunglasses, and I just kept going. It was mile 22. So the longest run I've ever run before that was 20 miles leading up to this. So I hadn't run 26 before and then went and did a race. I had only run 20 miles. I'd done it a couple times. I'd done 18, a 19, a 20, but 20 was the most I've ever run. So I knew I could get to 20 and I knew I could be okay there. And I had some experience there, which helped. And I knew if I kept feeding and I kept drinking water, early, it would help me later. So that's what I kept in my mind.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, mile 22 came and I'm like, wow, mile 22, nice. I felt like everything started going downhill from there. It was like, oh, this kind of hurts. This is crunchy. My knees kind of not feeling too good. I'm slowing down. It took me more effort to keep up the pace that I needed to mentally. I always listen to like a nice podcast or like an audiobook, something where I can like put my mind there.
Yeah.
And then my body is just doing what it has to do, but my mind is over here almost watching TV. It's just like a brainless activity. I can just follow along.
Did you do that during the race?
I did it during the race because that's
Really?
what I was used to. That's what I was used to. The first, good portion of it, I didn't have anything on. I just had them in, but there was so many people. One of the really cool things about the marathon I did, it was in Charlotte, was the whole race. There was people at the end of their driveways, at the end of their streets, handing out drinks to the runners, supporting. The kids were out yelling and screaming. They had bells, cowbell. So I was thinking, we're going to hit 13 miles. There was a half marathon going on at the same time. I'm like, they're going to split off and then we're just going to be left alone with nobody around for the second half is what I thought. Because you're pushing 3, 4, 5 hours at that point. Wasn't the case. People were out the entire 26 miles. It was just very vibrant, everywhere. So it was awesome. So that helped a lot. And then once I got, towards that, after the half marathon, then I plugged into something to just kind of take my mind off it a little bit.
Yeah.
But man, that 22 miles, 23, 24, we started hitting some more hills. We started, the up and down kind of thing, which
they gave
wasn't
hills at the end.
They left them for the end.
Brutal.
I felt, it was bad. And it was like, they weren't huge, but they were big enough to test you, really test you.
How'd you push through that? Because now your body is starting to give out, right?
Yeah. I had my quad on my right side, every single step. It felt like it was at the point of where it was just going to Charlie horse and lock up and I wouldn't be able to move it. That's every step felt like that. And I was like, I don't know what, I just got to try to maybe not hit it too hard and just keep going. But it was just I was taking 1 mile at a time.
One thing after another kept happening, right?
Yeah. Things just kept kind of adding up and I'm like, I need to stop thinking about them. I'm going to be fine. It was, let's get to the next mile. I just need to do 1 more mile. So it was, I need to just do 1 more mile every one after 22. So it was like, I just need to get to 23. Okay, I got to 23. Then it was like, I just need to push to 24. Okay, now I only have 2 miles left. I'm like, I just need to do 1 more mile. And then once I get there, I'll deal with the next one. So it was just creating those kind of milestones that once I hit that, I just need to do one more. I've run 1 mile 100,000 times. Like I can do 1 mile. So it was just breaking it down into smaller bits and then just picking them off one by one. There was also a couple people around me that have had some experience too, and they were kind of shouting some motivating stuff like, this is why you trained. A lot of people were saying like the last 3 to 5 miles, they're like, that is why if you train for this marathon and if you're running around me right now, you definitely trained. They're like, this is why we train. It's not the first 20, 21, 22, 23 miles. It's the back 3, 4, maybe 5 miles. That's why you did all of that training, was to get you here and then push through this last, 3, 4 miles. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, I'm like, I put in the work. Like I know I put in the work. I felt I put in the work, and I was like, this is the make or break. This is where all that work pays off. And it was at that point, I just kind of locked in, and I'm like, I've got this. Like I've got this. And I just kept that positive reinforcement in.
It's interesting because it sounds to me like there were fewer people around you than that last 3 to 5 miles, but it sounds like that became a little mini support group where it was everybody's goal to support each other. Am I misreading that? Is that kind of what you're telling me is going on?
Yeah. So at the 13-mile mark, at least half of the people split off. So
But
everyone
at the end.
But so at the end, it gets even more sporadic as far as the people go that are around you.
Oh.
So yeah, there's only, there's a handful, I can see everybody in front of me. There's people behind me. There's maybe 10, 15 people ish, maybe even less around me. Okay. So we kind of just like grouped together, and we knew at that point that we were all running kind of the same race. And when I say the same race, I mean like the same pace. We were all going the same pace for quite a long time. So it was easier to kind of come together as a group towards the end and then maintain that pace. Because if someone started slowing down, you felt like, oh no, I got to keep up with that guy, or hey, I got to hold this so that way they can keep up. So it was our own kind of support group at the end there. And luckily, I think I got lucky to have just like one outspoken person that has done this a couple, probably, I think he said 50 times before.
Oh my!
In that area, in that vicinity, because he was the only one talking. No one else was able to speak, I think, at that point in time. We were so deep in that mind pain cave there that people talk about. We were so deep in our minds, it was like I could barely see straight. But that one guy was there, and he's like, "This is why we train. Keep going. Keep pushing. We're going to hit it." And it was just like, that was all I needed to just be like, okay, this is it. Like, let's keep doing it. Yeah.
So
it's huge.
Ever a time when you actually thought you were going to quit? At that point, you just continued to find a way to push through, to get over that barrier, right? You just refocused no, I don't got 5 miles ago. I got 1 mile. And then I got another one. That's interesting, because what I keep hearing is these barriers kept getting thrown at you, and you kept finding a way to get through this barrier. That's what you do. And that's why you're a super successful guy in general. And so it's so rewarding. So now let's fast forward to the end. You've earned the name here, Buzzer Beater Nick, and I'm proud for lots of reasons, but your goal was to do it in under 4 hours. What was your time?
Yep. So my stretch goal was to do it under 4 hours. That was a stretch. Like it was, I've never experienced that distance. I don't know if this is even a good pace or not, but I knew based off of the per mile average, I knew that would be a stretch to do that for that extended period of time. So I even had this conversation with my mom before the event, because she knows how I am too, probably more than anybody. But she's like, just go out and run and have fun. Like, you don't have to push it. You just go out and finish. If you have to walk a little, don't worry about it. So she's, that motherly figure, obviously. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there, and I have all the intentions to just go out and have fun and finish. It was my first one. I didn't I didn't expect to have a good time, but I'm like, but I know myself. And when I get out there, I'm going to have to push. I'm going to have to. Like I won't be able to let myself not. So I had that goal in the back of my mind was I want to do it under 4. I want to do my first one under 4. It'd be huge. So we were getting to the end, and I was right there, right in a very good spot to hit that under 4. It felt really good. So that was also super motivating. And then even when we turned for like the last 0.1 mile, it was a very short runway that we could see the finish line, right? You have the whole finish line. There's a bunch of people there. The crowd's all chanting. There was this other guy that I happened to be running beside for a while. I looked at him and I was like, let's effing go. And we both just locked in. I thought I was running as fast as Usain Bolt. My wife had a video of both of us running. I was like, this video could not be in any more slow motion. I'm like, how does it look like I'm barely running? But I felt like I was flying over that finish line. I swear to God. But we just both looked at, he was like, okay, let's do it. So we just full out sprint, or what we thought was a sprint. But anyway, it felt like we picked it up 18 gears and we ran over that finish line. It was the best feeling. I looked down at my watch, 3:55. And I was like, I freaking did it. I was like 5 minutes too. You can't make up 5 minutes in any amount, like in 5, it would take you 5-10 miles to make up 5 whole minutes. You can't just run, faster like that. So it was huge to hit that actual goal that I set out, and it felt really good. I put in a lot of hard work, and that's what got me to that point.
And so now you know why we call him Buzzer Beater Nick, right? Just under 4 hours, and just under. You did it like how many? Less than a month before your 30th birthday. Another buzzer beater. You're just amazing, man. So all right. One last thing. Let me just ask you.
Yeah.
If you're talking to somebody who's trying to figure out how to do something that they think is insurmountable, right? Think about what we do for a living, right? We help people figure out how to do these things. What one thing would you tell somebody that they need to do to be able to accomplish something like what you've been able to do with this?
It starts with the commitment. It starts with the commitment. You need to commit to it. You need to know that you're going to spend some time, some money, some energy in that thing, and then believing in it. You have to believe in it and just keep telling yourself, if I keep pushing, I will get there. I will make it. If I put in the work, I'll make it. If something comes up, I need to just keep pushing. And that's kind of my mentality with a lot of things, is I just know that I need to do one more thing. I need to do one more rep, or it was one more mile for me at one point in time. It got to a point where I just needed to hit one more mile. So it's just always kind of going that one extra. When you think something's not working or stopping working, just do one more rep or one more thing.
Yeah.
And that's typically what will get you and pull you through to that next phase, or really open your eyes. I think a lot of people stop right before, and if they had just gone one more step, they would have been there.
Got it. So it's first of all, commit. Second of all, believe that you can do that. And for those of you listening, I mean, you have to find a way to believe that you can actually do it. And then thirdly, these barriers, right? You're talking about, you knew there were barriers, and that's how you just found a way to get through every barrier. The biggest barrier being in the last 2 or 3 or 4 miles, and that is how you adjusted. You just had to adjust your mind to get it. So, wow. Well, Nick, man, I can't thank you enough for spending this time to share this. I know there's people who would never even consider running a marathon, present company included. So I'm super impressed with what you've been able to do. Hopefully, people our goal here is to change people's lives, to make them something that they haven't been, right? To go places in their life they're not used to. That's really what you did. That's why I wanted you to tell your story, because it's really, really impressive. It is how you get to be successful. It's how you're now a marathon runner, right?
Yep.
Not only buzzer beater Nick, but you are now marathon man. So Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. I really do appreciate it. I hope you know that I value our friendship. I'm super
Absolutely.
You're on our team. And Nick, any parting words?
I appreciate it too. Appreciate your friendship and mentorship. And, I'm really excited for what's next and how far we can, really push and help each other moving forward. So I'm super excited for the future and super glad to be on here. I appreciate it, Ken.
You bet. Thanks, Nick.
Absolutely.
And if you like the content that we've shared here, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell. So thank you again and have a wonderful day.